Welcome back to Snapshot on the wireless online radio station. I am Zukhanye Duda, and this is Snapshot. I am joined by Ray Trutter today, and he's a man that does almost everything in the photography space. And he actually said I can call him Ray Ray since I'm Zuzu. Ray, welcome to Snapshot. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Susie. Thanks for having me.
I'm good. All right. Could you please tell us a bit about how you started in the photography world and what drew you specifically in architecture, interior, and corporate?
So my journey started in high school. We were actually on a travel and tourism trip.
Hmm.
We went out to Shamwari, and I borrowed my stepfather's camera. So back then it was more of a manual camera. Take the photos, have them developed at Kodak. So we went through one or two of the manor houses at Shamwari and snapped a few photos, came home and had them developed. I don't have the photos anymore, and there's only one that I remember, and it's an old Victorian bath.
Okay.
With a checkerboard floor, so black and white checkerboard. And the photo was absolutely perfect. So I nailed it, settings and everything absolutely perfect, not knowing what I was doing. And that's the photo I remember. And my stepfather still said to me, this is really good. And I suppose that's where it started off. So strange but true.
Lovely. So, was there a turning point or a project that really cemented your style or direction as a photographer?
So, COVID changed everything for me. I was big into the wedding industry,
Yes.
and I mean that's where I learned how to deal with people, how to deal with absolute chaos and all sorts. So, COVID basically shut the whole industry down, and it changed everything. And I don't think the wedding industry is quite the same still. So I've got a very good friend here in Port Elizabeth, a very reputable architect.
Yes.
From DMV Architecture, and we started working a bit together, and I started shooting one or two of their developments here in PE and St. Francis, and I suppose that's where the architectural side definitely came from. And I mean, the interior design on that side is also amazing. So it went from weddings through COVID, through the chaos, and then into something a bit more calming. So yeah, buildings are, it's just a nice space to walk about.
Yes.
You walk through a completed, beautiful home in St. Francis Links, and it's you and your camera for 3 hours, dead quiet, and a beautiful space. So it's calming.
Now, speaking of that, how do you approach capturing a space so that it reflects not only the space, but the atmosphere and its purpose?
So a lot of that's done by the architects to start with. I mean,
Yeah.
they know what they're doing, they design it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And a brief from them usually helps. And some of the interior designers that I've worked with, they will tell you, no, this is what the space used to look like. This is what the vision was. This is what the client wanted. So you do get an idea of what to shoot in the end.
Yes.
But after you do it a few times and you start learning what the guys are really after, I mean, you can walk into a space and just know what to do. Yeah, time of day and stuff is very important. Architectural photography has very strict rules. Stick to those rules. I'm looking at all those guys and photographers that are supplying photographs that are skew and the lines aren't straight. There are very strict rules for architecture. And if you stick to that, everything just works.
I'm taking it that you do have like a short list or some sort.
You mean of shots or
Yes, of
rules?
shots. That
Yes, I mean there's always, let's call it those money shots. So at certain times of day, exterior, capturing spaces as wide as possible, capturing spaces that lead into each other. Let's call it, you have got your top 10 shots that you really do want to get, and then you can start getting creative. When that light changes.
Yeah.
From 1 hour to the next in an interior or on an architectural shoot, a whole building can change within even 30 minutes. I mean, I was in Cape Town last month, and out in Paul, when that sun dips behind one or two of the mountains in the vineyards, you turn around and it's a completely different shot. So it's very challenging, but yeah, very cool.
All right. Now you deal with lights, angles, and textures. What's your secret sauce when it comes to highlighting the best features of a space or a building?
So the secret sauces, once again, are those strict rules for architecture. Once we stick to those,
then you're good to go.
You're good to go. And the architects, like I say, they know what they're doing. There's a reason you pay for architecture.
Yeah.
And the building just starts doing its own thing. But that time of the day for me is super important. That's definitely a big part of the sauce. Lighting, time of day, strict rules, and then you have to have the equipment to do the job as well. You can't be going into photography shoots, architectural, with your crop sensor cameras. decent and short angle lenses and stuff. You need the
Yes.
wide angles, you need the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and it just takes a lot of time. You start seeing the angles, you start seeing the lighting, you see details.
You
That's
get
the source.
familiar.
And don't over edit. I
Okay.
can't tell you how. We all saw the trend with the weddings and stuff a few years ago, where everything had that pink tinge to it or the sepia tone
Yeah.
to it. It's not
Yeah.
there anymore. So natural editing for me is top priority. If you keep everything natural and you keep everything, it becomes timeless. So yeah, secret sauce: editing, equipment, time of day, strict rules.
And I guess you're not the type of person that goes with trends and stuff because they come and go.
They do.
Mm.
I suppose I have been doing that in the past, and everyone does, without even knowing. You might be
Yes.
following a trend or something, but you always start going back to what you know. And I think that's why if you look at an architectural shoot maybe of mine or an interior from 3 or 4 years ago, it still looks the same now.
Okay.
So you won't see. Obviously, you get better and the equipment gets better, but it's still going to look the same. Yeah.
So Ray, I want to know, how has the evolution of photography gear and digital tools influenced the way you work?
So as you know, I mean, cell phones and stuff in the last 5 years, the evolution it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's no different with camera equipment and editing stuff and PCs. Luckily for me in the architectural space, I haven't needed to upgrade cameras for quite a while. I've still got my old school. I wouldn't say old school, but it doesn't have to be any of the fancy things like you see nowadays with the video side of things. So I'm still keeping it quite basic with the architectural side of things. It's a controlled environment, so it's not like the chaos of a wedding or something where you're doing videography where you need those new type of cameras that can really deal with the low light and all sorts of conditions. So for me, it hasn't affected me too much. I'm still keeping it quite simple on the architecture side and interiors. And I have tried artificial lighting and that type of thing before, and I just keep going back to the same thing where it's natural lighting and using with what you got.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of, I think you mentioned that architectural is kind of like structured. I want to know, have you ever had any mishaps during a shoot?
On the architecture, or are we talking weddings? Because weddings are chaos.
Weddings are chaos, I know.
I've had bride failures, not camera failures.
Thank goodness. Okay.
On the architectural side, yes. I mean, weather conditions can be a huge factor. Where you've planned something for maybe 2 weeks with the architects, with maybe the landowners or the property developers, and on the day it's just mayhem. So once again, in Cape Town 2 weeks ago, the whole weekend was absolutely perfect. So you fly out somewhere, you can arrange something, but the main thing for me is weather. And I have also arrived at houses where things are just not set up, or there's still some stuff lying around, or you really can't see. I mean, some houses are, let's call it 95% complete. The big houses on St. Francis Links, where you get there to photograph, and the house looks amazing in the photos, but behind you don't want to see what's happening because everything just gets shoved, and then any reflection in I mean, some of the mirror finishes on the stoves or the glass and stuff, you can actually see what's happening behind you. And so those are some of the disasters, and getting yourself in some of the reflections is sometimes it's impossible. So I have delivered 1 or 2 pictures back in the day where you can see yourself in the stove or in one of the knobs on the stove there, and it is what it is. I mean, some of the architectural pics.
Alrighty. Now, before we wrap up our conversation, I want to know, where do you draw inspiration from?
So we spoke about this earlier when we were talking about the weather. The weather today in PE it's nasty. So also a year and a half or so back, I went out to Cape Recife on a Sunday morning. It was blowing a gale. It was down to single-digit temperatures, and I spent 3 or 4 hours out there and just photographed a whole bunch of landscapes. And once I edited all of that into black and white, it really came out as something quite different for PE photography, I think. And it sounds crazy, but a lot of people chase light and that golden hour. It's days like this where it's overcast, it's moody. That's where I feel like I want to get out. It's no good for a bride, and it's no good for architecture, but personally, that type of photography that makes me feel good, I enjoy a day like this. So that's my inspiration,
All right. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Zuzu.
It's been lovely to have you in studio. Now, where can people find you?
So I've been bad on socials lately. But I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. More for the corporate side of things, I am on LinkedIn. So it's Ray Trutter Photography. And then my website is very much corporate, very much interiors and architecture, which is www.raytruterphotography.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
All right. That is Ray Trutter, and thank you for joining us in Snapshot.